to new research, there may not actually be any limit to how long a person can live. But does that mean humans could one day be immortal? Joining me to explain is biology professor at McGill University, Siegfried Hakimi. Thank you so much for being here, Professor.
I'm glad to be here.
So a study published in 2016 found that human life expectancy could max out, or rather would max out, at 115 years of age. But you took another look at those numbers and found that there may be no limit at all. Can you explain how you came to a different conclusion?
Yes, I mean, the original study essentially looked at the age, the maximum age, and every year at which the oldest person was dying in the world. And they analyzed this data with a number of assumptions, which we showed, statistically to be actually flawed. And so our conclusion has been, and I think it's pretty firm, that we cannot discern such a limit. Again, it doesn't mean there is no limit. It means that the data, as we know it for now, shows no limit. And this, of course, has biological consequences. It means that the limit could be much higher. The limit could be, higher in a way we can barely imagine. And this makes sort of sense with what we see with average lifespan. Again, the paper and this data was all about maximum lifespan. But it makes sense with average lifespan, which is also increasing continuously in countries like Canada, keeps going up. And so the fact that maybe maximum lifespan is capable of doing that as well is consistent with this observation.
Well, Professor, that same study found that human genetic variants are the reason that the lifespan caps out at 115 years. What do you say to that?
When we look at animal model of aging, for example, or when we look at the history of humans and how long they lived, we've seen over and over that the maximum lifespan follows the life expectancy or the average lifespan. So there is no clear data that there could be a disjunct between maximum lifespan and average lifespan. Maybe we'll find out something like that in the future, but at this point, I don't think there is firm data for such a potential disjunct.
Now, Professor, we know that in your lab, researchers experimented with extending the life of a certain type of worm by tweaking their DNA. So how does the future of old age look to you? And will humans need to modify their bodies or their DNA in order to live longer in the future?
Okay, that's conceivable. I'm not sure of that. Currently, the increase in lifespan, the big increase in average and apparently maximum lifespan we see is almost certainly due to the environment, our very comfortable environment. Okay, we live a life which is extraordinarily sheltered, and therefore we sustain very little damage from the environment. And this is probably the reason why lifespan keeps increasing. You have to think about a person who now lives to a very old age, say 117. It means that this person was born 117 years ago, which means that part of this person's life was not as sheltered as ours. And that's probably why the average lifespan keeps increasing when more and more people have had a large part of their life being much easier than it was in the past. As to tweak human DNA to live longer certainly is one of the goals of the type of research I and others are doing. Our goal is more to understand the process of aging, and then the goal is not really to tweak it, but to understand it first. But of course, it could lead to a possibility to tweak it somewhat.
Professor Hakimi, thanks again.